Alright, what is going on, chat? This is part 2 of grade review that we tried doing yesterday. And for whatever reason, I came to find out that my computer decided to upload to my Google Drive, which was crashing my stream. So we are back. It was not a fear of the Umbreons, but of the fear of the upload. So we're going to get right back into it. So for those of you who are joining me for the first time, my name is Galaxia Gaming. This is episode 36, actually, not 35, 36 of Grade Review, where community members will submit their cards into our Discord, and we will review them for free during streams to assess their potential PSA grade. So this is a pickup from yesterday's stream. We normally do these on Wednesdays starting at 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern, and we're just going to get right into it. So again, for those of you who are new, I'm going to start off with some of the things that we like to look for in the beginning. So for this Umbreon and every card that's going to be graded by either PSA, Beckett, CGC, anyone else, there are some 4 main grading criteria. Betty, welcome. Hopefully the Umbreon does not scare us too much. So again, the things that we're looking for are centering, corners, edges, and surface. So it's actually good timing because Betty, who is one of the moderators, this is one of her submissions. So thank you, Betty. Hopefully the Umbreon is not scaring Spectrum ISP. So we're going to get right into it. So I'm going to be using a few tools today. So the first one I have is a magnifier. Ooh, ah. And then the next one is a pen tool. So I can kind of draw, doodle, maybe even do like a little smiley face if I really like the card, something like that, to kind of help illustrate some of the potential damage or things that I'm starting to look at when I observe this card. So ultimately, this will help us really determine, and yes, Jose, it is definitely a little off-center for sure. Hey, lover, how's it going? Over on YouTube. And for those of you who want a different experience, depending on where you're watching me today, I'm also multi-streaming on YouTube. So you get to see a little bit more behind the scenes over there as well. Yes, Fob. So all my VODs are immediately uploaded to my YouTube page. So if you go to the live section of YouTube, you should be able to see all the VODs that I have streamed. So, hey, Trev, how's it going? Nice to see you again, as always. And the hearts, I appreciate you. All right, so let's get right into it. You don't want to know how long it took to get a good photo of my Charizard, right? Well, it was definitely worth it at the end of the day. Hey, Left, how's it going? Welcome in, guys. Welcome in. All right, so the first thing that we see, obviously, Jose kind of definitely hit it right out of the park, is that this Umbreon's a bit off-center. So the right side is much thicker than the left. So I would say that this would be considered off-center, not by a sub-grade qualifier, but definitely will take some points away from the centering. And so as we kind of look across the corners here, my favorite Pokemon is Jolteon, but if I had to pick a non-evolution, it would be Victreebel. So the corners look great. This left edge looks actually really nice, but I don't know if it's because of the lighting, because there is some scratches on the surface. And as we get to this right edge, you can really kind of see some of the scratches here by the Umbreon's tail and on the right side of the Prime border. So as we kind of look around, we see that menacing eye on the Pokemon, or the Umbreon rather. See some scratches on that like kind of back leg as well, and the really nice moon in the background has a little bit of scratches, but it's really just kind of general wear and tear for sure. How do we know if our cards made it to get reviewed? So every week I'll post a queue for the week. So unfortunately I was experiencing some stream issues, so I'm basically just picking up where the queue left off yesterday, which is currently at Betty's submission. So that's how you know. And the reactions that I put against each picture will tell you where you're at, where if it's a green check mark, it means that you're slated for the next stream. If there's a microphone, it means that it was on stream and you can watch the VOD. Or if it's a blue check mark, which means that it was approved and is ready to be in the queue. Jesse, thanks so much for following. I appreciate that very much. Thank you guys. So this is also a nice thing to note as well. If you are going to take pictures and send your cards in, having multiple angles like what Betty is showing on this Umbreon really helps us figure out a little bit more on what might be going on with the card. So I'll give you an example. So one of the things that I see on this Umbreon, on this picture rather of the Umbreon, that I couldn't really see here is really in this section. So I'm kind of circling it a little bit there. So right here, you really can't see too much. But as we kind of go over to this side, you can really start to see a little bit more of that surface wear, which is good to consider when we're, going to be assigning this a potential PSA grade. Betty, as you say that, I'm kind of highlighting how I like it actually. But yeah, you can kind of see some additional scratches with some of the lighting here. So if I take my magnifier tool, so you can kind of see, some additional scratches in the darker parts of the Umbreon that you really couldn't see in the first picture. So those are always good to note, right? Because surface is always going to be an impact. Now, as we flip it over, so you can kind of see one thing that is a pretty good rule of thumb, or something to look out for. So for example, this right side is much thicker than the left. So if you're ever wondering, is it really off center? Is it not? So when we flip this card over, a good thing to first check is that this right edge should also be pretty thick on the left side as well. So if we tip it over, or flip it over rather, you can also see that the left side is much thicker than the right. Pokemon lovers already guessing over on YouTube. But actually the back of this card is in actually pretty good shape. So if we kind of take a look here, right? So the corners really have no whitening. This top edge looks really nice. This bottom left, a little bit of a bend there, or kind of like a corner fold, more than anything. But as we kind of look on the bottom edge is really clean, as well as that right edge, very, very clean on the back. But really the only thing is just kind of that general surface wear on the front, especially kind of like in this section by the tail and this section on the edge. So in this part of the stream, it seems like there's enough people. So what I like to do in these grade review streams is, if this is your first time, this is where I allow chat to vote on what you guys think this Umbreon Prime would get as a PSA grade. So if you want to vote on what you think this card would get, type !grade followed by the number for your vote to be counted into the chat grade. So that is both over on YouTube or on TikTok, wherever you're watching me from tonight. Again, that's going to be !grade followed by the number you think this card would get if you want your vote to weigh in on what you think this card would get. The back was actually really clean, N4. So the back was super clean. The only thing that I really saw on the back, again, for those of you who are kind of coming in a little bit late or didn't see the back when I was going over my spiel, the corners are really good, the edges are good, but it's really just this bottom left corner that has most of the issues that I can tell. But most of the problems that I can see is really kind of from this angle here, right? So we have some issues here, have a lot of scratching here by the tail, as well as kind of in that foil. So it really kind of just like goes across like that. You kind of see just like general wear and tear on the overall surface of the card. So N4 and G. Yeah, so while you guys are voting, again, if you guys want to vote, exclamation point grade followed by the number, whether you're watching me on YouTube or TikTok. So if you guys are wondering how to submit your cards for free for a future grade review, if you just click my link in my bio, either on YouTube or TikTok, you'll go to my link tree, which will look something like this. And all you have to do is just click or tap that Discord icon. And it is set up in a way that it'll give you the entire onboarding process and guide you exactly where you need to go. So that'll help you out tremendously. CJ White and AJ Way, thank you so much for the follows. Thank you both so much over on TikTok. Thank you, thank you. But yeah, I always love the Prime cards. Very, very cool. Very cool. From what you see, would you consider it heavy, mod, or light play? Very interesting. Well, I will go over that in a second because I'm going to close the poll here. So let me just wait for this to update. So surprisingly, it looks like we had a very close, almost like a tie between 7 through 9, but it ended up squeaking in. Actually, someone over on YouTube kind of cleared it out, or tipped the scales actually. So chat grade was ultimately a 7, which is near mint. So now I get to weigh in on what I think this Umbreon would get. So again, here's some of the marks that I was highlighting here. First off, very off center from the right to the left. So right off the bat, if we're just focusing on centering, we're already at like an 8. So additionally, we have some pretty significant scratches on the tail. My eyes immediately kind of got drawn into this section. Additionally, we have some scuffing kind of by the jawline of the Umbreon. And upon closer inspection of this additional light, you can kind of see all these little scratches all across the surface. And again, PSA with their magnifying tools and other tools, or just Beckett or CGC, you're going to see some of these scratches, right? Which is going to significantly decrease the surface score. So as we flip it over, however, it's kind of interesting. Normally I say this for the front, but the back is actually saving this card a lot because the corners are very crisp, the edges are really sharp. The only thing that I see is it is a little bit off center from the left to the right, and there's a little bit of a bend here on the bottom left, which you also have to take into consideration. So the question is, and I think Betty said as well, is, you know, what so first off, we'll kind of start from the bottom up, right? Like, do I consider this damage or heavy play? I do not. And do I consider this near mint? I do not. So really, it kind of boils down to, do I think this card is in light play or moderately play? So if I look really at the tail, right? So for me, it's really just this part. So those scratches are pretty predominant, right? So normally, you know, if you're kind of seeing scratches, almost like if I take the magnifier here, right? So some of these scratches on the forehead, that are kind of all across the card, you know, I would say, you know, it's not too bad, right? For something in the light play category, that's pretty good. However, for this scratch in particular being on the tail, that's so predominant, that really kind of cuts across the entirety of the card, those seem pretty deep to me. And so if that is also pretty deep in person, I would also, if this were my card, I would personally list this as moderately played. As simply as a vendor, because I think that just because our eyes are drawn immediately to that scratch, so I personally would probably say mod play, or if I kind of translate that over to a grade, I would say a PSA 5 would be my guess. So chat is thinking PSA 7 and I am thinking PSA 5. It is definitely, Jose, when the card is you know, black or darker in tone, scratches come up a lot easier. And it's kind of funny, the same thing with hollow normals like Snorlax or Dragonite. Those cards in particular are very hard to grade as well. But again, a really good card for sure. Just say scratch error, yeah, why not? Leans, thanks so much for the follow. I appreciate that very much. Didn't mean to miss you. And we just broke 1.1k likes over on TikTok. Thank you guys so much. So again, this is a completely free service. If you guys are interested, just click the link tree in the bio. Additionally, for those of you who are new, it's actually really good timing because if you do click the link tree, I actually have a 9,000 follower giveaway going on. There's actually 4 hours left So definitely check that out. It's the first link on the top when you go to the link tree, and you will be entered in to win one of my Galaxy Gaming mystery boxes. So it has some packs that I've made. It has some Scarlet and Violet, Paldean Involved, The City in Flames, as well as some 151. So it's a really nice little product, completely for free as long as you're in the United States, because customs is a pain. Yeah, you're thinking the same thing, Lover? That's good. So let us move on. But yeah, definitely take a look at that. Again, it's completely free, and yeah, there are definitely some fun products I like to give out. All right, so so next up, and guys, I'm not gonna lie, these were probably some of the most high quality pictures I've ever seen during grade review. And these ones in particular are very nice. There's a lot of history behind these, both in the English and in the Japanese, so I'm very excited to look over these. And I'm also going to kind of shed some light on some things that you should really be looking for when you see these cards. Yeah, they definitely look scanned, but it looks like that they're taking, you know, with a DSLR camera, would be my guess. Yeah, the quality is insane. It's super nice. So yeah, so the first thing, so we have the Japanese variant of the Sabrina's Gengar in comparison to the English variant. So for those of you who don't know, because not everyone does, so this Sabrina's Gengar was actually censored when it came over into the States. So as we can kind of take the magnifier tool here, so in the Japanese version, you see all these tombstones and gravestones and these crosses in the back. The United States thought that was too spooky for us 8-year-old kids, so instead they pretty much just washed those out entirely. You can kind of still see a little bit of them in the holo, almost like the silhouette of them, because they couldn't remove it entirely. But this is the uncensored variant of the Sabrina's Gengar, so very cool card. I actually really like this card a lot. But yes, we'll definitely take a look at it regardless. So let's look at the uncensored Sabrina's Gengar, Japanese. So the first thing, Jose is like an eye of an eagle right now, is at the top right. As we kind of first look at the corners, you know, there's a little bit of whitening there in that top right-hand corner. And as we kind of look across the card, we have a little bit of whitening pretty much all over the edges of the top. And as we look at the bottom left corner, looks okay. There's a little white dot there, but nothing too bad. A little bit of corner fraying in the bottom right as well. But really right here, and I'm going to try to just circle it very quickly with the old pen tool here. Is that we do have a little bit of surface wear. So right in this section, you can kind of see that some of that purple layer was essentially stripped from the card. So I can kind of take my magnifying tool here. You can kind of really see some of that white being shown from being worn off. So aside from that, we can probably see some more here as well, and some of that surface wear. So we got some right here, have a little bit here. Those are more just scratches than anything. Let's see. So we got some surface issues here by the fighting energy. I think CJ also spotted that too, thank you. And we have and I'm just gonna kind of fill this in. So we have a scratch right here by the Sabrina's head there, also right here by the 40.5 kg, which I always thought was very interesting. You know, for a ghost type, the fact that it even weighs anything is interesting. But I digress. And man, I cannot draw in the lines to save my life. There we go. And so save that real quick. So if we look with the other magnifying glass, we're gonna you can kind of see some very faint scratches on the holo. Is there some below the Sabrina's head or chin? This might be just kind of like where it's cropped. Additionally, I think this looks to be part of the purple. But I don't think this is anything, because I feel like the silver edge here would be more damaged in appearance. So I think that's supposed to be there if that's what you're talking about. How do you send a card in to get look at? Just click the link in the bio, my friend, and just select the Discord icon. And there's an onboarding process. It'll guide you through the entire steps. What would I value this card at a moderately played condition? On the top of my head, I don't know, but I can definitely go over how I would begin to find out, especially for Japanese. Because normally for English, I would just check TCG Player if there's enough sale data. But I'll tell you how I do it in a second. But yeah, so for the most part, it's really just kind of, you know, with the exception of some scratches here, which the Sabrina's Gengar is very hard to get graded because there's a lot of hollow in comparison to the Gengar, right? So the Gengar has a lot of little surface area in comparison to the hollow. So these cards are very hard to get graded. So as we flip it over, we can definitely see, you know, some slightly frayed edges on all four edges. The corners are pretty well loved. I have a pretty nasty scratch right there down the middle, and I'll kind of hopefully highlight that right now. It's kind of right down the middle there. But we also have a little bit of dirt there. And the thing I always like to highlight when I see dirt, again, for those of you who have seen my streams before, I often mention cleaning techniques to address things that have been added onto the card. So something like this is something I would be able to, or I would be comfortable taking off with just like a, you know, like a Q-tip into some distilled water. That could easily be removed, which would improve the surface grade. Obviously, this card is, you know, in loved shape. I'll put it nicely. But something like that will just at least not take away from the surface score. But yeah, so I think the fading from what you're seeing, Jose, I think it's just based off of the camera settings that were used to take a picture of this. So it looks a little bit darker, would be my guess. But the detail is definitely there. So yeah, it looks like there's enough people in here. So chat, again, if you guys want to vote on what you think this Japanese Sabrina's Gengar would get, just type in ! grade followed by the number you think this card would get. So here is the front of the Sabrina's Gengar, and here is the back. Again, that is ! grade followed by the number you think the card would get as a PSA grade. So while you guys are voting, I'm going to catch up with chat real quick. Lynn, thanks so much for the follow. Appreciate that very much. That one guy, welcome back. I've seen you here a few times. Welcome, welcome. Hopefully so far so good. Knock on wood, the stream's been holding up compared to yesterday. Heavy play, yeah, it's definitely loved for sure. What's the browning in the top corner white area? Yeah, you're talking about this maybe? Right, you said top corner. I'm imagining this one. It might either be might be a stain or just how the picture's been taken. Because it looks like the picture was taken, you know, with a pretty good camera. So the light exposure may have been reduced to kind of highlight some of the details, but in exchange, a lot of that kind of might be darker in some areas. But we just broke 2K likes on TikTok. Thank you guys so much. Appreciate all the love and support. It really does mean a lot. All right, so let me close the poll here. And chat is thinking that the average vote is a PSA. Where was it? Load. Was a PSA 5. So the chat average, the chat winning vote rather, it's not average, was a PSA 5. So let me save that. So what do I think this Japanese Sabrina's Gengar would get? So we see a lot of surface wear, especially in the energy symbol in the top right and the bottom left. We see some scratching. So a lot of just general wear and tear on this card. And surprisingly, based off of this angle, there's not a lot of damage that I can see on the hollow itself, which is actually really surprising. There are some scratches, but not as many as I thought there would be when compared to the rest of the card. So when we flip it over, however, this is where we're starting to see most of the general wear and tear, right? So we see very, very small fraying of the edges and the corners on all four corners and all four edges. In addition, we have a pretty noticeable scratch here, as well as a bit of dirt that we can probably just wipe off, so I wouldn't be too worried about that. But besides that, the big thing that I'm not seeing, which is really good, is I'm not seeing any corner, like major bends or creases or anything like that that would bring this card even lower. So I would probably say You know, I don't think I would consider this heavy play, but it's very, very close to being so. If there was any creases or bends or dings or anything like that more taken away from the card, like if, for example, if these were much worse or anything like that, that'd probably be a 4, because I've definitely seen worse as 5s. So I would probably agree in this case, just based off of what I've seen in the past for cards similar, that I also think that this card would get a PSA 5. But a beautiful card. I absolutely love Sabrina's Gengar, especially the Japanese version. One of these days I'll get one, but not today. PSA 5 out of 20. Right? 5 out of 20, exactly. But yeah, so next up is the Dark Dragonite with probably one of the coolest swirl placements I have seen in a minute. It's almost like looking like it's about to charge up an energy ball with its claw. So again, for those of you who are new, I absolutely love cards that have really unique swirl patterns and swirl placements. So if I talk about them, I like to nerd about them quite a bit. So before I move forward with the Dark Dragonite, again, I always like to take the advantage of educating people on some certain errors that are very valuable. So for Dark Dragonite specifically from Team Rocket, does anyone know the highly sought after and very rare Dark Dragonite error? Does anyone know what that Dark Dragonite error is? So I think it's very important, especially if you're going through like boxes or local game stores or conventions that people don't know. It's a really good opportunity for you to get a lot of return on your investment just for being knowledgeable and keeping an eye out for certain errors, especially for the Dark Dragonite. Yes, Flicka, you got it exactly. So the error for the Dark Dragonite is actually considered the non-hollow error. So even though the Dark Dragonite in this case, right, is full hollow, the set number is 5 out of 82. There are certain instances where you'll see a non-hollow Dragonite, but will still have the 5 out of 82. So what this means is that that Dragonite was supposed to have the hollow foiling applied to it, but did not, which is considered a highly sought after error card. So anytime you are rummaging, you know, through bulk or, you know, a showcase of like old vintage stuff that might be a little bit more inexpensive because it's non-hollow, if you see a Dark Dragonite, you should always be very cautious and see if that non-hollow actually has a 5 out of 82. So always keep that in mind when you're looking for this in non-hollow. But let's look at the hollow version, which is what we're looking at today. So one thing that I will say, and I say this often when I see it, is creases are the almost the ultimate punch in the gut for a grade. So we can kind of see, and I'll keep my mouse here so you guys can see it a little bit better on stream, is anytime we see a crease or a bend or a ding, it's going to significantly decrease the overall grade of the card because they have a significant impact on the surface. And I'm just gonna as a way to kind of keep track of it, and it almost looks like, honestly, it almost kind of looks like it kind of goes all the way down into even to the hollow section. And it'll be interesting too when we flip it over, if we see, and we'll actually do it right now, because normally sometimes when you see creases, it'll even be so bad as carry over and it'd be on this section, but we don't see it there. But I do believe that the crease starts or ends here and goes all the way up here. So I'll try to make these kind of two little points here and try to very gently see if I can connect the dots here. So there's kind of a crease right there between those 2 points from what I can tell, but we'll save that and keep moving on. So what Jose is seeing, Jose is on point right now. The top part is definitely thicker than the bottom, so a little off center from top to bottom. Left and right look pretty good, so not too much there to be concerned about. So as we look around the card, corners look great, edges look good. The hollow actually looks pretty good. There's really not a lot of scratches, maybe a little bit one there, but based off the light, not too bad. Yeah, unfortunately, it's really just what I perceive to be a crease that I can really see on the hollow, but which is unfortunate. So if I kind of take the pen tool back, that's really what I'm seeing. It's just that crease and the off center from the top to the bottom. So if I save that and go to the back, so we have the borders matter, but it's the Pokemon itself that needs to be centered on the card. Borders matter. Yeah, the borders are what measure centering. That needs to be centered on the card, if that's what you mean. Because if that were not the case, like cards like Lugia would never get PSA 10s because they're technically off center from the artwork. So these are the community members cards, Austin. So if you want, Jeremy, thank you so much for the follow on TikTok. Appreciate that very much. So yeah, this is a free grade review. So if you click my link in the bio and go to the Discord, you can submit your cards into the grade review channel, but the onboarding process will guide you every step of the way. So it's a completely free service I like to offer to the community. And it's just kind of cool to kind of look at some cool cards and get a little bit better on what to look for and just kind of give my experience. So as we look at here, right, so we see some more aggressive whitening, right? So we see a little bit here, and then we see, I'm going to kind of mark it with the pen tool here. A little bit there on that corner, a little bit on that right edge. We got a little bit there, boom. That top left has a little bit. This section looks pretty good besides right there. Okay, we got a little bit on that bottom. But aside from that, it's really just more on the edge than anything. So if I kind of do like a before, and I'll even kind of do this actually. So like a little before and after. So right, that's what it looked like before the marks, and this is what it looks like after. So you can kind of see, right, that a lot of those will take away from the surface in the corners as well. I have a 25-year-old 3-ring binder full of first edition Pokemon cards just sitting. Well, Skylar, we would love to see him in the Discord for sure. That'd be awesome to see. Might do that, get some cards I hesitant to send to PSA. Well, that's the nice thing about it, Austin, too. Like, if you're just kind of curious on what you think your cards would get, this grade review is a really good option to offer. Because I know it's, you know, some people get very intimidated by the process of PSA, which is totally understandable. You're right, you're sending your cards to a place you don't really trust, like, at face value. So yeah, definitely a nice little service that I like to offer for free. Heath, what's going on? Yeah, so I would say just to kind of keep things going. I thought I sent my photos, but I never submitted. Gotcha, left. Yeah, it happens to the best of us. So yeah, so again, when I say, you know, with creases, creases tend to, like, at most, the least amount, or how should I be saying this? I'm trying to think of how I'm saying this. So when I see a crease, it pretty much starts at a PSA 6, which is very unfortunate, but it is what it is. So it kind of just goes down from there the worse the crease is. And so what I was kind of showing here, right, so in addition to this card being pretty off-center, there's a pretty nasty crease from the top to the bottom here, which is, you know, we're already looking at a 5 and a 4. And the back of this is actually pretty good. And then I would say even, you know, if I were just to consider the back would almost be like a PSA 6, you know, because the whitening is definitely not near mint, but I don't think it's as bad to be mod play. But this crease is really what's kind of taken this down pretty significantly, to be honest. But the hollow itself is actually in really good shape. So I would probably say for this Dark Dragonite specifically, I would probably give it a PSA 4, would be my guess. Just because of those creases, man. Those creases are super nasty. Best grade starting, exactly. Michael, thank you so much for the follow. I appreciate that. So yeah, I think that Dark Dragonite would get a 4. Try to find my photo on Discord, but yeah, I just did. Okay, perfect. Took some pictures that I sent and noticed a white mark on my back corner. Oh no, it's kind of funny, right? Because like now that people are starting to do these, we're starting to be, you know, which is great, right? We're starting to kind of pick up on a little bit more stuff, which is exactly what I want, right? So when you guys go out into the field, so to speak, or if you're looking at online auctions or local game stores or shows, these are some of the things that I personally use when I'm assessing collections or looking cards to purchase myself. So it does not cost to submit anything to the grade review if that's what you're asking. It's completely free. You can send in 50 cards if you want into the grade review, but it is 5 per person per stream. That's the only, and it's first come first serve. So if the queue is really big, for like a month. Like if there's a lot of submissions, you know, it might take some time to go through. So the only thing that you can pay for if you want to support me, in addition, is subscriptions are on either in the Discord or TikTok, and those who subscribe get priority for grade review. But those are really if the queue is really up there. But let's say clamp the card in acrylic plates and clamp it for 2 days. You're talking about the crease? Sometimes depending. You might want to do the humidor technique with that though. Is the blue tape to get stuff off the card legit? I've heard, you know, it's funny. I heard someone say that yesterday, that people do that. And personally, I don't really do that. And if there is ever any like white stuff, I gotta rephrase. If there's any white bits of paper or debris or anything like that on the surface of the card instead of the edge of the card, I just use like a microfiber cloth to wipe it off. Vintage holos and first edition holos, are they worth sending them in even if they'd grade low? It really depends, Left. Like my rule of thumb for most, not all, but for most, for vintage, I normally try to grade it if it would get a PSA 8 or above. Like if I think it's going to be near mint plus or higher, I'll submit it to PSA if it's vintage. Now there's obviously some cards that are, you know, like a Gold Star Charizard from what is it, Delta Species? Or why am I not thinking Dragon Frontier? I can't. Why I'm blanking on the set name. It's either Dragon Frontier or Delta Species, or not. I'm thinking Delta Species. The Charizard. I don't know. My brain is fried. Anyway, that would be a card I would grade regardless of the condition because it's such a high valued card on its own. Like same thing would be like a first edition Shadowless Charizard or Venusaur or Blastoise as an example, or any of the first edition holo base set cards. I would grade regardless because they're just so like valuable on their own, and they're just better just to protect that card, in my opinion. But there's very few exceptions where I would just grade a card just to grade it. Another one would be I just want it protected, you know. But anyway, who knows there's a lot of errors tonight. Does anyone know the error for this Grimer? Anyone know? This one was also corrected when it came over to the States. Does anyone know what the error or the centering or the not the centering? What did they censor when it came to the United States? This Grimer from Team Rocket was censored when it came to the United States. Reyes got it. Yep. So this Grimer in the States is looking this direction. But this version, it's looking this direction. And I will leave it at that. I will leave it at that. That is a naughty Grimer. Weeb Grimer. Bad. But anyway. So we are going to first see that this is very off-center. This right side is thick compared to the left. Some wear and tear on the edges. Got some issues there. Little issues there and there. But overall, the surface actually looks pretty good. I am too. Hee-haw. I actually had the Grimer, Sabrina's Gaze, and Koga's Trick Room graded not too long ago. The Sabrina's Gaze, I had that recently on my TikTok. I did not expect it to get the grade that it was supposed to get. The fact that it even got a 7 was mind-blowing to me. But I'll take it. So we got some issues there on the top as well. We actually just reviewed the Sabrina's Gengar, hee-haw. Skibbity Shiesty, thank you for the follow. So we got some issues there on the top. Have some issues there on that corner. And just little bits of whitening here. Kind of scattered all around the edge. More significant whitening there on that bottom left. Kind of mark these and then I'll start to look at the surface of the card here in a second. So save that real quick. So let's take a look. Nothing else really, from what I can tell. But cool. So it looks like there's enough people in here. So I'm going to open it up again to another chat poll. So again, if you guys want to vote on what you think this uncensored Grimer would get as a PSA grade, just type in !grade followed by the number, very similar to what CJ White did over on TikTok. So again, if you guys want to vote on what you think this Grimer would get, type !grade followed by the number. And we just broke 4K likes over on TikTok. I appreciate all the support, guys. Thank you so much. Got some votes coming in over on YouTube. But yeah, I'm super big fan of all the band artwork stuff. It's always, I'm always like a big like history buff when it comes to Pokemon. Just like that's why I always like the offsets or the gimmicky stuff of Pokemon. Like, you know, they're making cereal, they're making Pogs, they were making dice, they were making coins, they were making anything that you could put Pokemon on. Everyone was jumping at the bit to do it. So I always love that stuff. Would you say they are lenient on vintage cards? I'm very hesitant to ever say that a grading company is lenient one way or the other, or Pop Control one way or the other. Because again, it's really hard to know, like, unless I physically see the card, like what sways a grader from grading one way or the other. So I definitely think, you know, people that go through and, you know, try to improve their grading skills before they submit, I think will put people's expectations in a more realistic space, which will result in not thinking PSA is pop controlling. I mean, granted, you know, I've had cards come back either better or worse condition than I thought they were going to be in. And, you know, I really struggled. I have the infamous Erica's Ivysaur that I've graded twice and both come back as a 3, which is crazy. I would imagine, Theodore, right? Because at the end of the day, it's just people, which is why I really think that AI should be introduced into grading in tandem with people grading. I don't think it just should be one or the other at this point. I think AI should be there as more of like a trust but verify. But yeah, very similar to kind of what we're doing, right? Why can't, you know, there be both, you know, like I'm grading and chat's grading, so you have kind of two different entities, right? Like, why can't there be a professional grader in AI doing it, right? Thank you, Pokemon Lover. I appreciate that. Swinging the votes. I do not know how much a Misty's Tears goes for, unfortunately. AGS, I'm not a fan of their advertising, and I'm not a fan of some of the information that they put out there. To put it shortly, there was a video I made a while ago that kind of highlighted some false data that they were presenting, and they never got back to me. But I think the concept of AI is really important. PSA, I know, is working on introducing AI. The only reason why I know that is during some surveys I took about 4 months ago. They were introducing some of the upcoming projects that they were working on, which one of them included AI. But I think it's very interesting to see how it will impact the market for sure. All right, so let me close the poll here. Just give me 1 second. So it looks like PSA 6 is the chat grade for the Grimer. So let me write that down. So chat is PSA 6. So what do I think this Grimer would get? Let's take a look, shall we, chat? So, like I said, off-center, we have some corner issues, some edge issues on the front, but the surface overall looks pretty good. But as we flip it over, we have some mild whitening here. I don't know if that's saved from before. Some on the top, and very light on the edges as well. But in terms of anything worse than that, I don't see anything wrong with the surface, so meaning I don't see any bends or creases or major bends anywhere on the card, which is good. Now, I will say, though, that one thing I just noticed is that surface issue right there in the kind of the dead center that kind of I missed in the beginning. So that is right dab in the middle of the card. So part of me, with that on the front, you know, it's really kind of taking away from that eye appeal, right? So I would probably say because of that kind of new discovery, at least for myself, I don't know if you guys saw it, but I would probably lean more towards a 5 than a 6 because of that. So let me mark that over. So chat, on average, was thinking PSA 6, and I am thinking PSA 5. Caitlin, first, welcome. So let me just catch up before I answer your question, Caitlin. Let's see. Most def would help. Yes, for sure. Yeah, there's definitely needs to be... PSA definitely needs to address the lack of quality control, because there simply isn't any. It simply doesn't exist. Because, you know, people have said, you know, there's hair in my case, there's a crack, there's damage on the card that wasn't there before, which are all very valid points and have all been marked to be true. And you would normally catch that if your quality control department actually were doing their job, or if there even was one. So, yeah, I think AI would be a really good introduction to the quality control aspect. In your experience, what are the best deals from PSA? There's actually one going on right now left, and let me actually take a quick peek at what that is, so I can kind of show you. So just give me 1 second. So how do you submit your cards? So first, Caitlin, thank you so much for the follow. And if you want to know how to submit your cards for a free grade review, again, totally free, you can submit as many as you want. It is first come, first serve, and it's limited to 5 per person per stream. But if you go to the link in bio to my link tree, it will send you here. And all you have to do is click or tap that Discord icon, and the onboarding process will take care of itself. So it'll guide you on where to submit your pictures, where to go, how to do it. All that is all automated through the onboarding process, so super easy. But yeah, that's what it was. It was $13.99, 20 card minimum for Collectors Club members. And I think that ends on October 31st. So to answer your question, Left, I always like to keep an eye out on PSA quarterly specials or monthly specials, because those are really where some of the best deals come from, in my opinion. But there was one that happened last week, and I know there's some people that take advantage of it because of the bulk, but there was one where it was a $12.99 per card submission, but it was a 50 card minimum, which is insane to me. It's like, I don't have 50 cards laying around. That's what we're actually doing right now, Sam. So basically I'm making up from the stream issues yesterday to today. So any cards that were in the queue from yesterday are being dealt with today. And I'm not adding to it because I'm actually not even supposed to be streaming. Because this is when I do my editing, but I don't want to ever, you know, have you guys, if you're in the queue, it's like, hey, my cards are going to be here. And it's like, what happened? My cards aren't being reviewed anymore. But all the queue information, Theodore, should be seen in the grade review channel. So if you take a note at the reactions, so the blue or gray, sometimes it's different for certain folks. The blue or gray means that yep, it's approved, like you took good pictures. The green means that it's scheduled for next stream. And the microphone is that I reviewed it on stream. Yep, exactly, Caitlin, you have it. And if you have any issues or anything like that, we have some really good moderators both in the TikTok and Discord. So if you have any issues, please feel free to either reach out to myself or the moderator team. So we'll definitely help you out. Again, we're trying to make this as easy for you guys as possible because it's something that I like to offer to the community. And just look at some cool cards like this Suicune V, submitted by Atomic. So before I continue, I think I missed a few more comments. Give me 1 second. Just took advantage of that one, but I panic set and didn't clean the cards much before sending. I mean, it happens, Left. Sometimes it's like, you know, I'm gonna be honest. Sometimes it's like, man, I just want to submit my cards. I don't want to have to like clean them and whatever. I just want to be able to submit them. So I totally get it. Have you done a cool Porygon yet? I think a while back, Carl. I think honestly, like probably one of the first 10 grade review streams, I looked at a cool Porygon. So yeah, it has been a very hot minute. I think the one card that has been reviewed the most, or two cards that come to mind, is the Korokoro Mew and the base set Charizard. You guys have all those all over the place. It seems like I review one at least once or twice a month. So, all right. So for modern, again, if you guys have been here before, I apologize. But for modern, when people ask me, you know, for vintage, someone, I forgot who it was, is, you know, is it still worth grading if it's, you know, if it's going to get like a 6 or a 5? For modern specifically, my hard stance, and it's a hard stance on a lot of people, is that if it doesn't get a 10, it's not worth grading. Meaning that if it gets a 9 or an 8, it's pretty much going to sell as near mint. Maybe a little bit more, but that's more just to cover the fee of grading it. Does the red X mean not a good picture? Exactly, Theodore. Yep, you got it. And also if you look at the pinned comments on that thread, all of the icons are explained on what they actually mean. So the red X is that, yep, you took the picture wrong. And normally I'll comment on like what you need to change, because it's advantageous for you to fix those, because the slower you are to respond, the more you get buried in the queue. Because I can't like replace the picture, you know what I mean, unless you edit it and replace it yourself. But did I see? What did I miss? What did I miss, Poke Lover? Oh, you subscribed. Thank you so much, Lover. I appreciate that very much. I don't know why it didn't pop up on my live center. I saw that you have the new banner, or the new little tag, but thank you so much for the subscription. I really appreciate that. Thank you. Message me on because since you subbed on TikTok, just make sure to message me on Discord, because I need to update your account manually to give you the cadet role, which is going to give you some cool perks. So definitely make sure, because for whatever reason the TikTok bot doesn't carry it over well. So definitely DM me over on TikTok, or not on TikTok, on Discord. All right, so 10 or bust, Suicune V. Let's see. Centering looks good. Corners look good. In the back, same thing. Yeah, corners look great. Centering looks great. I think this Suicune is a really good 10 contender, for sure. All right, so on the origin form, centering looks great. Corners look good. Same thing for this one too. Bottom right back corner. I don't think I saw anything. This one looks a little bit thicker. It is way too big. This one looks a little bit thicker, but I would probably measure this one on that right side compared to the left. But that one looks really good. There's no major whitening on the corners or anything like that, which is great. White mark on the Suicune front top left. Let's take a look. I think this is just the lighting. If you guys are referring to this, I think this is just lighting, in my opinion. And then bottom right back corner. And this might just be hair. This stuff, I think that's just fuzz, if that's what you're talking about. And then the Lugia. The Lugia looks well centered. There might be something you might have to wipe off here, but I don't know. Oh, thanks so much for the heart as well, Pokemon Lover. Appreciate you very much. Yeah, it's tough. Just for good measure, right? You have all 4 pieces of Exodia. But that front looks good. And then this also looks very good, well centered. No issues on the corners or on the edges. Very, very clean. Yeah, I think all 3 of those are extremely good condition. And then finally, because I got to start wrapping it up here. I'm not trying to rush, but again, I'm not really supposed to stream right now. But we are trying to make it up from yesterday. And get those queued up. Oh yeah, I'm aware that Exodia has 5 pieces, but there's only 4 little things on there. CJ, thanks so much for the heart. I appreciate it. Yeah, I used to, fun fact, I used to play Yu-Gi-Oh! Competitively back in the day. Jake's life is a joke. Thanks so much for following. I appreciate that. Yeah, I used to play Spobooks and Metal Foes Yang Zings, if anyone has any experience on those, but it was a very long time ago, and I stopped playing around Zoo. All right, so same thing here from the modern. The Ivysaur from the 151. The centering looks great, corners look good. And I will say that this probably won't get, and so people are like, Galaxia, how can you even see this? Well, I see a little bit of whitening there in the top right, even though it's a little bit blurry, and we can see some in the top, there'd be the bottom left from this. How much would a bend do to the grade? It really depends. If it's one that can be flattened out by a book, it wouldn't have any impact. But if it's a bend like a crease or, like uneven surface overall, it would have a significant impact. So like, for example, I had an Erica's Ivysaur that was extremely clean, but kept coming back as a 3 because of the surface issues, such like a general bend or a wave across the surface. Yeah, so I don't think this Ivysaur would get the 10 because of the whitening in the top right and the bottom left corners, unfortunately. The Arceus V-Star, let's take a look. Centering looks great on the front. Also on the back looks really good too. Yes, yep, a really heavy book. You have to have some, like a heavy book, put the card inside of a sleeve, of course, put it in the center of a heavy book, and put a lot of weight onto it. This one looks actually a little bit, maybe off center. The top and the right look a little bit thicker. So maybe a 9 in this case, but I'd probably measure these, the left and the right compared to the right and the top, measure the left and the bottom respectively. They allow 1 white cut mark on corners. I don't know about like a rule of thumb like that, but I know like when I see whitening, like I saw on that Ivysaur, that's not gonna get a 10. So this Erica's Invitation, although it's a little sideways, we can still kind of work with it. It is still pretty well centered. Again, with the support banner up here, it does look a little off center, like at first glance, but it is within the range. I just sent in 8 cards for grading for the first time today. That's awesome, Trout. Definitely let us know how you do. That's always very exciting. Definitely good luck on that for sure. So the bottom of this, so it'd be on the left here, looks a little bit thicker than the top, but that might be within, I would say probably the 60-40, because I know people say 70-30, but I really think that applies to sports cards more than anything. So I think it's more of like 60-40 for Pokemon. But definitely measure that, because if it's outside the 60-40, probably won't get the 10, probably a 9. And then the Bulbasaur. When I mean 60-40 or 70-30, I mean the ratio. So like, for example, if you were to split an inch down the middle, right? So it's a 1/2 inch and a 1/2 inch, that's 50-50 ratio. Versus, split an inch, 1/4 and 3/4, that's 75-25 ratio. So that's what I mean when I say 60-40 or 50-50. They're just ratios. So that's all I really mean. Like, so for example, this one, the bottom of this Bulbasaur, which would be the left, looks to be a little bit thicker on the bottom than it does on the top, so I think it's slightly off center from the bottom to the top. And as we flip it over, you can kind of see that same thing kind of happening here on the back as well. So this bottom is pretty thick compared to the top, so this might not get the 10 because of how, kind of off center from what I can tell. But anytime I talk about off centering, again, because I'm watching it on a screen, definitely measure them yourself to confirm. But I think because of that, I don't think it would get the 10. And then last but not least, the Squirtle. Again, both really nice additions to Stellar Crown, rounding out that Charmander promo that we saw earlier in the year. The bottom is, again, a little bit thicker than the top. And as we flip it over, yeah, same thing. The bottom is a little bit thicker on both the Bulbasaur and the Squirtle compared to the top. So definitely measure that for sure. Let's see. Do I only do Pokemon? I have a manga buggy I want to submit. I think someone else submitted some One Piece stuff. So, I mean, I'll leave it to the Discord. That's what's kind of nice about being able to join the Discord. Everyone can kind of weigh in as a community if they want me to kind of review more than just Pokemon. So I'd say submit it, and if we, as the community, if we're like, not much, or like, not really interested, then we'll just kind of cut it out. But I would say submit it. Submit it, and we'll we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. But yeah. So that is the end of the queue from yesterday. So I'm going to stop there because, again, I normally don't stream Thursday, so I really got to have to wrap it up. And then, for those of you who have never seen me before, hello. This is the Great Wall of Pokemon cards back there. And my hair's a mess. But yeah, so again, if you guys want to submit your cards for a free grade review, I'll go back to the grade review here to see my screen. So if you just go to the bio, the link in bio will send you to the link tree, and all you have to do is click or tap that Discord icon, and the onboarding will take care of itself. It'll tell you exactly where to submit, what to do, what the instructions are. Again, it's a completely free service, but it is first come, first serve, and that's how you do it. Very easy. But if you have any questions or issues, definitely let us know in Discord for sure. You saw me on YouTube. Thank you. I've been active over there the entire time. You can see the whole screen, whole setup over on YouTube. Homestead, thanks so much for the follow. But yeah, hopefully that is good. I gotta definitely hop off. I am pretty much on a timer at this point. So thank you guys so much for dealing with all the stream issues yesterday. So the next stream is actually probably even going to be either this Saturday or Monday. So definitely look at Discord. Keep an eye on Discord for those updates. I have some really cool announcements, and I'm actually going to be ending again, the giveaway that's on the link tree ends in 3 hours. So it's a completely free giveaway to enter to win a mystery box that I have made. Has my own packs, has some Pokemon packs in it, some really cool stuff. If you want to enter in and try to win a free mystery box from me, definitely make sure to enter. There's 3 hours left before I draw the winner. So definitely check that out. The link is in the first part of the link tree. So guys, that is going to be it for me tonight. Thank you so much for joining me. Very impromptu. And I will catch you probably either this Saturday or this Monday. So definitely take a look at Discord because I don't know yet. So I'm going to make the announcement there. So appreciate all the love and support, and I will catch you guys.